Chat, for those who don't know, there was a 5-hour long podcast that was dropped last night, and I have not gotten a chance to watch it. I've seen some clips here and there, and there's actually a little part of that is cited in here, I believe. This is basically a summarized version of the entire 5 hours, and it's from Jeff Kaplan sat down, discussed Overwatch, why he left, what he's doing now, and more, in which he actually ended up dropping his game, which I then saw Jeff Keesley, I think it's Keesley, the guy who runs the Game Awards, tweeted it out, and people quoted, was like, "Is your bloodthirst not sated with Highguard dying?" Keegley, yeah. Anyways, really quick, so this got summarized down for us, which is very nice. It says on Titan. So if you don't know who Titan is what Overwatch was supposed to be. It was called Project Titan before it became Overwatch. And Titan was Blizzard's follow-up MMO to World of Warcraft, set in a future Earth where the players led double lives as secret agents by night and ran businesses by day, in a featured GTA-style driving one shared world for every player, and it was built on an entirely new engine. After several years and $83 million spent on development, the project failed spectacularly. The art team, engineering team, and design team, all of them simultaneously, not because they weren't talented, but because there wasn't any cohesion in what they were building. So basically, they ended up taking what was all the failed assets from Titan and turning it into Overwatch. But imagine you had GTA Overwatch. You got Winston with the blicky. Tracer's got an AK, you know what I mean? Like, be kind of crazy. Art looked like it came from 10 different games. The engine barely ran. A technical artist could only work 20 hours out of the 40-hour week because the tools had been so broken that they'd been rebuilt. They'd rebuilt everything every time they'd wanted to make some changes. They hired 70 environmental artists before they even knew what their world was supposed to look like. When Titan got canned in 2013, Kaplan fought hard to keep a small core team together and was given 6 weeks to pitch a new game. He'd been through the old Titan character art lately, particularly Arnold Zhang's, and there had been some throwaway comments from designer Jeff Goodman. Holy shit, these are some names I haven't heard in a while. I'm pretty sure this is the guy, he left recently. Oh my god, what was the last hero this guy made? Chat help. Do you guys know? This guy made all the designs. Was it Kiri? I think Kiri was the last character he made. You might be right. And Jeff Goodman was the balance guy. Yo, I'm not trying to flame that guy. I'm sure he was a very nice gentleman. I never really had a conversation with him. Horrendous, and I mean dog shit balancer. Like genuinely horrendous at the balancing department in Overwatch 1. The reason why Brig ran wild for 18 months is because that guy refused to nerf her, and was basically what happened was all the high level players were telling the dev team at the time, "Hey guys, what's forcing goats is actually the supports, not the tanks." And they were like, "You're right, it's not the tanks. Let's buff Reaper." And that's what they did. They'd buff Reaper. And I wish I was joking. I'm not joking. That was literally their answer. Was if you buff Reaper, then Reaper will kill tanks. Reaper kill tanks. And then, because Reaper kill tanks, goats no longer exist. And that's literally just not what happened. And then what ended up happening was, in high rank play, goats still ran. And in low level play, Reaper just ran the game. And so they had to nerf him. And then they buffed Soldier, because years ago, they buffed Soldier by 1 damage. He became meta, and they were like, surely if we buff him by 1 damage again, that'll fix it. And then it didn't fix it. And they were like, oh, well, GG, we tried. Moving on, though, about wanting 50 classes with 1 or 2 cool abilities, each that stuck in his mind. So Kaplan took the Titan Jumper class, stripped her down to dual pistols, a blink, a recall, a time bomb, and asked Zhang what she looked like as a person rather than just as a character class. That was Tracer. Wait, that's the same guy that made Tracer? I think probably made Mercy, made Kiri. Holy shit. The entire roster grew that way. They whittled the Titans' bloated class system into distinct heroes with personalities. The engine that had failed Titan became one that shipped Overwatch. How in the actual was the original Overwatch engine supposed to run a GTA-style game? That's my question. I have no idea. On to Overwatch. During development on Titan, someone had run an official fake democratic naming exercise by putting options up on a whiteboard and pretending they were actually wanting people's input while already having their own preferred choice in mind and steering towards that choice. What? Overwatch was one of the options for a police-type faction in Titan, but it ended up getting the most votes, so someone took it as someone took it as kind of a middle finger to the person who pretended to value feedback. What? So Overwatch was one of the options for a police-type faction in Titan, but it ended up getting the most votes, so someone who took it as kind of a middle finger to this person who pretended to value their feedback. Jeff basically stole the name for his new game as an act of rebellion against them. What? I don't even understand what he's going like. So basically they had a style where they were supposed to name an upcoming faction in their game and nobody listened. They were like, okay, you guys all get to vote, and then everyone's voting for something else, and like this is not like a real vote. They already had an idea in mind, so they were just gonna change it no matter what. No shit. It does sound very Blizzardy. Tracer's dual pistols came from Jeff's favorite loadout in Modern Warfare 2. Dual G18s. Nah, that's crazy. Tracer's dual pistols are an iteration of the G18s from Modern Warfare 2. First off, no, I did not know Jeff Kaplan knew ball quite like that. Second off, is that why we have Junkrat? Is this noob tubes? Did he take noob tubes from COD? And we're like, I'm going to slow them shits down so you can't just one-shot people, but kept the power, and that's how we have Junkrat, which is just an Infinity Ward cribbing. Reinhardt charge mechanic comes directly from playing Left 4 Dead in Versus mode, or Left 4 Dead 2 in Versus mode, where an enemy boss called the Charger had that same commit like a runaway train mechanic. You're kidding me. I mean, you always have like a theory that's like, oh yeah, that's kind of like this from this other game. No, they're dead ass just straight up from like, yeah. No, yeah, we saw that. We're like, yoink. He loved it because there was no taking back once you press the button. Oh god. Well, Jeff, I hate to break it to you here in Overwatch 2 land, but you can cancel that shit now. That shit's no longer a runaway train. That shit's just a movement ability. If we're building on a hero shooter, if he were building a hero shooter today, he would make it less team focused and more about individual contribution. The medal system backfired because players on losing teams would weaponize them against teammates. He wanted to celebrate the team, but ended up giving people an excuse for finger pointing. He also says that the original Overwatch pitch that there was in the original Overwatch pitch, there was free-to-play model where you had to buy heroes, which he now thinks is a terrible idea, but at the time it felt like sound business sense. Wait, they actually did that with 2. So is Overwatch 2 them trying all the shit that Overwatch 1 was gonna do and they just never did it? And they were like, okay, let's try it here. But then also more about individual contribution. Is Jeff trying to say that gamers f***ing suck balls and they don't want to work together? And they want to be the only solo carry and team play is hard because people are selfish in games? Yeah. It kind of sounds like he is saying that, to be honest with you. And to be honest, can you really blame the guy? Dude, I feel like anyone who would probably watch and developed 6-7 years of Overwatch would probably think the same thing. Is he wrong? No. Honestly, he's not wrong at all. All right, on to Overwatch 2. He doesn't frame it like it was entirely him or entirely them. He says he believed in Overwatch 2 and that the PvE vision was something he and Chris Metzen and Michael Chu were excited about. and had been talking about since at least 2015, before Overwatch 1 even shipped. There was a genuine creative impetus here. I think I've told you guys about this. I remember like years ago hearing that the Overwatch team like originally wanted to make the PvE game. They wanted to make WoW. I think Frito actually was someone who talked about that a lot, was how like Jeff Kaplan kind of just got gifted basically Game of the Year Overwatch PvP game, and none of them wanted to make a PvP game. They wanted to make a PvE game, and then just magically ended up with like literally the golden age game, and that's how they kind of blew it, because like they like didn't know what to do with it, you know. It goes on to say, but he calls it one of his biggest mistakes as a creative leader. There were two main pressure points pushing Overwatch 2 forward, independent of that enthusiasm. One was the faction of the dev team that weren't PvP players and wanted to engage with Overwatch's universe in their own way. The other was the executive pressure from both Blizzard and Activision, who kept referencing those made-up dates at the top of the original pitch deck like they were promises. Holy shit. So there was a part of the Overwatch dev team that didn't like PvP games and they wanted a PvE game. So they were pushing for PvE. And there was the other side, which was executive leadership, that wanted things that were like previously talked about, but like weren't actually promises. They were just like a part of a pitch deck. And they were like, where is this? So like they had to make it. They had a literal faction war inside the company. Dude, this is like arc raiders inside of a dev studio. You have the PvPers and the PvEers. Holy shit. Goes on to say, his mistake, as he described it, was pitching Overwatch 2 to the team before Overwatch 1 shipped. Oh, wow, that shit was really true, huh? They really did not care about the PvP. Dude, it sounds like it was just a fight for jobs, because, like, the entire Titan team got laid off. He fought to keep a small team together and was given 6 weeks to put a game together. They put a game together so they could all stay on and not get fired, obviously. Dude, Overwatch was literally a mistake. Like a mistake genius child. And then the 2 was probably supposed to be the PvE version that they originally wanted to make with more time, if it went well, which it did. That's crazy. Okay, trying to give them runway, which ended up creating a coalition of internal pressures against riding the momentum of the live game. So it sounds like executive leadership wanted to move on to the 2 quickly because they wanted to just like get to the next generation, make more money. But the original team kind of realized that they needed to work on the current game, but they couldn't because they had to go down to the next one. Holy shit. And also think about it. That's Activision Blizzard at this point, right? This is Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard is the classic, we make COD every year. So they weren't really used to having one game being the same game for many, many years. They were just like, we need to have the next one out and running. So just like they had done it with COD for years, they have a new shooter title that pops off. They're like, hell yeah, let's make the second one ASAP. Yeah, and they were already split as an internal dev team too. Because the internal dev team was half or part wanted to make PvE game, part wanted to make PvP game, and then up top was trying to make the move. So the PvE crowd probably had even more push. He thinks that in hindsight, the right call would have been to keep doing live events and ride the wave as long as possible. So he owns it, but he paints it more like a creative idea that got wrapped and accelerated by forces beyond his control, rather than something he drove start to finish on his own terms. Okay, so it sounded like he wanted to make Overwatch 2 because he wanted to make a PvE game. But then, like, Overwatch ended up being a success and was like, uh-oh, like, let's work on this thing instead. It's actually pretty good. And then everyone else was like, no, you already said we're going to do this other thing. Let's keep doing the other thing too. And so it was like two sides tug-of-warring. Wait, that's kind of crazy. On why he left Blizzard. The breaking point came when Blizzard's CFO called Jeff into his office and laid out a specific number of dollars Overwatch had to generate each year, and then told him if it didn't meet the figure that there would be massive layoffs. With that responsibility falling squarely on his shoulders. That moment crystallized something that had been building for years. Guys. This is like everything from the last few years. It was like, we would always talk about it and it was like, dude, I feel like the dev team is so different than executive team because they can't do shit. We've all seen the rumblings over the years. We've heard people talking about it. The fact that they called him in and were like, yeah, if you don't make this amount of money, we're gonna fire a bunch of people, and that's solely on you. If you're a current day Overwatch player, I hate to break it to you, that is why you get Kiri skin every week. That is why you get new Juno skin every 2 weeks. That's why you get a Wu Yang skin every week. That's why you're probably gonna get more Vendetta skins. That's probably why you're gonna get more Rhine skins. That's probably why you're gonna get more Widow skins, because they sell more and they have to reach quotas so they can keep getting more content. That's crazy. That CFO is no longer there. Yeah, I'm gonna get there. I haven't gotten all the way there yet. But even if it's not even there anymore, I'm not saying like that. Like that's evil. Like that's a genuinely evil statement to say to someone. But I'm sure whoever the new CFO is probably wouldn't frame it the same way, but knows that if they don't hit certain target goals, then people are gonna get laid off. You know, it's just with more of a smile. Finishing off, the rot had started earlier with the birth of Overwatch League, which began as a genuine good faith attempt to protect players and create a model based around regional teams, but quickly devolved into a financial house of cards. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Team owners who have been sold almost an absurdly optimistic vision of an NFL level revenue were suddenly pressured by the game team for monetizable content. Then came the mounting pressure to ship Overwatch 2, with executives citing dates from pitch decks Jeff himself had made up in order to save his team from cancellation. By his own account, he was going from feeling like he had a creative control over the direction of a product to being responsible not only for its development, but accountable to a sprawling set of stakeholders who had no understanding of how games were built. I mean, I can speak of that personally. I worked in Overwatch League. Dude, I can tell you nothing was worse than trying to explain esports and this in quote unquote video game to these like 60, 70-year-old executives that make literally like millions of dollars a year, and they're just looking at you eyes glazed over, and they're like, okay, well, we need to make more money on our ticket sales. And I would just sit there and be like, okay, but like your target demographic is like 13-year-olds to like 22-year-olds, like college age, end of high school age. You don't have crazy numbers. You can't charge them $160 for a ticket to a 3-hour event. Like they're just not going to show up. Like you're not going to get that money. And they're like, well, what if we made the experience better? I'm like, what are you going to do to make the experience better? Like we could set up booths and let them play Overwatch. And I'm like, okay, like they're going to sit down at a computer and play Overwatch for a couple hours on the shitty internet of the building because we're using most of it for the event. Like that just doesn't make sense. And it finishes off with, he envisioned retiring at Blizzard and thought it would be part of his identity, but after that CFO meeting, he decided that he wasn't going to work for someone else ever again. What he wanted now was to make the games that he always believed that should be made, with a small team focused on craft without people threatening mass layoffs if revenue goals weren't met. Holy shit. That's actually crazy. Flats, I highly encourage you to watch the full podcast. It's long, but the summary wasn't the best. I mean, I read through the comments on this. A lot of people said this was a pretty good summary. I mean, it's 5 hours long. I'm not going to watch the whole thing today. It literally dropped last night. This is just like a short summary of it, you know? That said, though, I do feel pretty bad for the guy. I do genuinely feel a little bad for him because I kind of get it. That, you know, probably had a lot of things on his plate, trying to run a live service game. What was probably game of the year, was one of the most beloved games at the time, while getting pushed back from multiple sides. I am a little interested though on like what were the Overwatch League team asking them to make, because like other than making like skins, what did they end up making? They made like the replay viewer in the game, right? Where was it? Like right here? Like They made like the replay viewer. They made like the spectator client for Twitch, which was only there for like a year. Camera system, Twitch integration. The camera system was always there. It's just the replay system. The replay system was they were making that regardless. That had nothing to do with or the spectator. Sorry, the spectator clients existed since the game came out. But maybe there was new camera tech in the game. Maybe that's what they did. But you could always use a spectator client. That wasn't too different. It's what he said. I wonder what exactly those extra things would be. Maybe they had their own version of the spectator client that like publicly we never got. Cause like I ran tournaments, right? I ran tournaments where I had people run this like spectate for a stream. And obviously it wasn't Overwatch League level quality, but like the way we bounced around and watched different POVs and like spectated the match was like very similar to the way Overwatch League's was worked. So that is actually interesting. I'm not sure what that could have ended up being. But yeah, I guess this is the first time I think he's ever spoken out about it. And he also dropped his game with it too. So watch the trailer for Jeff Kaplan's new game, The Legend of California. First look, wishlist now. So maybe a dumb question. Did you ever meet Jeff or talk to him in person? Okay, so I wasn't a streamer when Jeff was really there, but I did meet him. I met him in line at a security checkpoint for Overwatch League, and we chatted for like a minute while we were going through security and go through like the scanners and stuff in the back of Blizzard House, like the back of the Blizzard Arena. Very nice guy. He was very, very sweet. So what's the point of the game though? Like, what are we going for? Is it like a PvP game? It's not PvP, it's survive and explore. Doesn't look bad. JK, I'm in. There's mining, I'm in. Wait, you think it's like a building? Like survival craft? Like you can build house? Oh yeah, you can. Oh, I'm in. I take it back. I said it didn't look bad. I thought it was just like gonna be like a rolling around, like looting and like, you know, exploring. No, it's like a building. I'm in. I'm actually kinda in. If it's a building crafting game, but it's like almost like 7 Days to Die, but instead of zombies, it's like Wild Western. Yeah, I'm in. I'm actually so in. That looks pretty damn good.